Okay, good evening and welcome to the January 9th regular school board meeting. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Craig.
Here.
Mr. Estheimer.
Present.
Mr. Freitas.
Here.
Mr. Green.
Here.
Mr. Koopser.
Here.
Ms. Mossop.
Present.
Dr. Pomponio.
Here. Okay, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Southgate Community Schools mission statement is learning for life. Vision statement, Southgate Community Schools, the best choice for students and parents. Okay, at this time, we're going to vote for board officers for 2018. Okay, do we have nominations for board president?
I'd like to nominate Jason Craig for president.
Thank you. Any other nominations?
I would like to nominate Dr. Pomponio for president. I think she did a good job through the last year, so I don't see any reason to change that seat.
Do you accept the nomination, Mr. Craig?
I do.
And I accept the nomination. Okay, so I have a statement I'd like to read, so we can just vote after the statement. I've been on the Southgate School Board for 8 years. I've been active from the first day forward. My passion is education, ensuring that students obtain the best quality education that allows them to be successful. I've been part of many committees in my district, including strategic planning, safety, policy, and curriculum, to name a few. I am out in the schools and community regularly, learning what parents and students are concerned about in the district. I have been on the Wayne County Association of School Boards for 7 years with an officer position with at least 6. I've been a member of the Resolution and Bylaws and Government Relations Committee with the MASB. I've obtained all of the awards leading to and including the MASB President Highest Award. I've been part of the NSBA, the National School Board Association committees, the Urban Committee, and have traveled to Washington several times to speak with legislators and fellow board members. I have also participated in 2 MASB Board President workshops on 2 separate occasions and in the Advanced President workshop. I'm a team player, and I look forward to continuing work in the district and community. Thank you. Mr. Craig?
I thank you for the nomination, and I think I could lead this district and help strengthen the relationship between the board and administration.
Okay, so can we have a roll call on the nomination for Mr. Craig?
Mr. Estheimer.
Yes.
Ms. Mossop.
No.
Mr. Koopser.
Yes.
Mr. Freitas.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
No.
Mr. Craig.
Yes.
Dr. Pomponio.
No. Okay, so with 1, 2, 3, 4 yes votes, Mr. Craig's the new president, so we don't need to roll call for the second nominee. So let's continue with the nominations for vice president. Any nominations for vice president?
I'd like to nominate Mr. Estheimer.
Any other nominations for vice president?
I would like to nominate Dr. Pomponio.
I would like to turn Ellen that position. I don't want to be vice president. Thank you. Okay, any other nominations for vice president? Okay, we have Mr. Estheimer as vice president. And we're moving to secretary for, are there any nominations for secretary?
I'd like to
Can we
nominate.
do Madam President, can we do a roll call on that for vice president?
With one nomination?
Yes.
Okay, can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Craig?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Koopser?
Yes.
Mr. Freitas?
Yes.
Ms. Mossop?
I'm going to say no, and the reason I say no is I believe that you should believe in the school district, and Tim's a great guy and an asset to the board, but he doesn't put his children into our school district. And in the past, we've had interviews for outside candidates that were excellent, but because they chose to not believe in Southgate schools and send their children to a different school, it was the board's decision that it would be hard for that person to really be committed and to make financial decisions when they don't choose our school.
I wasn't, I was actually voted by the voters to serve this board.
Okay, I'm gonna
Dr.
stop that.
Pomponio?
We're
I'm sorry.
just taking the vote.
Should I continue with the roll call?
Yeah, go ahead.
Dr. Pomponio?
Yes.
Mr. Estheimer?
Yes, I accept.
Okay, so Mr. Estheimer's the new vice president. Moving on to secretary.
I'd like to nominate Dr. Pomponio.
Any other nominations? I accept a secretary position. Can I have a roll call, please? Mrs. Brusecki? Oh my God, did I say that?
It's okay.
Sorry.
Ms. Mossop?
Yes.
Mr. Craig?
Yes.
Mr. Estheimer?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Koopser?
Yes.
Mr. Freitas?
Yes.
Dr. Pomponio?
Yes, I accept. Thank you. Congratulations. Your president is Mr. Craig. Your vice president is treasurer. I'm sorry. Can I have a nomination for treasurer, please?
Madam President, I'd like to nominate Jason Koopser as treasurer.
Any other nominations for treasurer? Okay, can I have a roll call, please, Teresa?
Dr. Pomponio?
Yes.
Mr. Freitas?
Yes.
Ms. Mossop?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Craig?
Yes.
Mr. Estheimer?
Yes.
Mr. Koopser?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Koopser is the treasurer by nomination. Okay, so the new 2008 board officers are President, Mr. Craig, Vice President, Mr. Estheimer, Secretary, Dr. Pomponio, Treasurer, Mr. Koopser. Congratulations. And at this point, we can make seat changes. Thank you.
Beat it.
So does that mean now I have to make sure Mr. Green has a pen and paper at all times?
Oh, you don't take your
should bring an extra
You gonna do us
Yeah,
last
Andy.
timer? What? Oh, how happy I am.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hey, I'm fine with my space down here.
Yeah. I didn't put it there.
Okay, what's next?
Okay. That brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is the revisions and approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion for the approval of the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, we got an approved agenda. Next item on the agenda is F, citizen comments on discussion or action items. Do we have any citizens who'd like to make comments? No? And that takes us to presentations.
I don't have a drum, so I can't do a drum roll or anything.
Didn't see the.
I would like to
computers,
take
got
this
excited.
opportunity to acknowledge our 7 board members. We appreciate the time, dedication, and commitment to our Southgate students. These 7 individuals have given up precious time with their families in order to serve as board members. This following statement was prepared by the Michigan Association of School Boards. January is Southgate Board Recognition Month, and Southgate is joining 541 local and 56 intermediate school districts across the state to thank these community volunteers for their untiring dedication to public education. Serving on a school board has been described as the toughest volunteer job in America. Yet Michigan's public school board members dedicate countless personal hours to attending meetings, school functions, and hours of preparation for the decisions they make. On top of that, many pursue their own professional development to stay on top of the ever-changing educational landscape. Collectively, school board members in Michigan have spent more than 7,500 hours attending training and professional development. They're dedicated individuals who are committed to the continuing success of our schools and students. It's an exciting and challenging time in public education. School board members in Southgate develop policies and make tough decisions that help shape the future of our education system. They bear the responsibility and oversight of an annual budget over $41 million, serving over 4,000 students and over 450 employees in 8 buildings. We proudly join educators and community members in saluting these education advocates as they provide vision and leadership for student achievement, academic programs, district funding, and school facilities. They preserve the core of democracy, public education. I would like to present each of you with a special MASB Certificate of Appreciation. And as a small token of appreciation from me, I have what I consider and call an emergency lunch. And it's a lunch that may come in handy on a cold winter day or perhaps a rainy spring day, which I'm looking forward to, when you didn't pack your lunch and don't have the time or desire to run out and purchase something. You will not hurt my feelings if you gift it to someone else. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Can I eat it now?
There's an excuse to.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Joe Pastor.
People that know me have received these emergency lunches because it does come in handy sometimes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Soup, chips, candy, mints, water.
Yeah, it takes us to the next item on the agenda, which is student government representatives. I don't see any here. Or you know if we have student government reps? No. Okay. And it takes us to I committee reports. The first one is anti-bullying.
We're meeting on the 18th. We had to reschedule that, the 18th regular time at 4:30.
Finance.
We had a meeting today, which the notes of which will be posted, and the information will be brought to the full board on the next committee meeting, or next board meeting.
And the next board, and the next committee meeting will be January 24th.
Yes, it'll, well, tentatively.
Okay.
Again, the wife changed her work schedule, got to try and figure out if we can
Okay.
make that happen.
Okay.
So,
Policy.
We had a meeting this evening, and we reviewed the 8600 policy that Neola has for transportation. So, Teresa, what's the deadline for Plant Moran for the policy?
This week is when I promised them the rest of the information. I did send them the policies that we did have concerning specific areas of transportation. I sent that to them last week so they could start.
Okay.
So this would be part of the decision that you make about what those 3 questions that we talked about last month, and giving some direction where you'd like to go so that they can do an estimate. So I did tell them that I would probably give it to them at the end of this week.
Okay.
If I give them the answers to those questions, then I can talk to them about the policy depending on how things go during the discussion today.
Okay, because we have a rough draft that we
Okay.
reviewed, and it's a Neola template.
Okay.
So it is basically covering the general outline of the transportation policy.
Okay.
So we meet on the 18th, but we have notes on it that I can
Okay,
kind of
and I can probably
work
send
on.
that to
Okay.
them.
Okay, thank you.
That would be fine.
And our next meeting is January 18th at 5:30.
Legislative Committee?
Our next meeting got pushed back, so we will be meeting on January 18th, which is a week from Thursday.
Curriculum?
We don't have anything. We're meeting on tentatively the 18th. I'll have to get with Dr. Baker Herring and set up a new time, so that's going to change because we had to schedule a conflict with the policy. So I'll give you an updated time next week or sometime this week.
Personnel Committee?
We met tonight, a lengthy meeting since we missed November, with Jerry and the new superintendent, Dr. Pomponio, myself, and Mr. Estheimer, discussing the administrative changes, including the transition of the new superintendent and the new curriculum director sitting to my right. Also tomorrow, the interviews for the high school principal, which Dr. Pomponio and I will sit on as part of a committee. Also, Mr. Moran updated us again on a number of policies about personnel, not policies, but personnel procedures to the committee to keep us up to date. I would like, with Jerry and Dr. Pomponio and Tim's approval, since to really make it a standing Tuesday, the next meeting, the first Tuesday of the month. Is that okay, at 5 o'clock?
Yeah, that's fine. That'll be on top of the grounds and maintenance, so that'll be fine.
Right, so we'll go back to back. So our next meeting, I don't have the calendar in front of me.
But we meet the 2nd and the 4th, don't we?
Yeah, we've been meeting second.
I meant the first meeting.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
first meeting of
Okay,
the,
Tuesday.
the first Tuesday that we meet per month. So the second Tuesday of the month at 5 o'clock. Thank you.
So that's going to be February 13th.
Okay. Thank you.
And grounds and maintenance.
We had a meeting today. We wanted to update the dude system, but Nate was unable to make it, so we're going to do another full meeting next month on the 13th. But we covered an update on what's happening around the district with the water main breaks that from the city at Beacon, and some of the updates around the school with the weather conditions. So we've covered that today in that committee, but we are scheduled to meet February 13th at 6 p.m.
Jinxed him. Every time we try to do that, he's either sick or it snows or something. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, that takes us to J, discussion. First is the finance report.
Well, there's been a lot that's happened since the last time we met. First, on December 20th, the Michigan Supreme Court ruled that PA 75 of 2010 was unconstitutional, and that was the Public Act, and Neil is smiling, and Andy, that mandated that members of ORS contribute 3% of their pay to the retiree health care fund. It has been, the judicial process has been a couple years, and this was the final decision with the Michigan Supreme Court ruling. It came quicker than a lot of people anticipated. We have, just to put things in perspective, they have held this money from all the employees in the state in an escrow account, so it has been earning interest. The dollar amount for the employees of Southgate is almost $1.8 million as far as wages, so that money will be refunded to them, and they were not taxed on it. The retirement was paid on it at the time, but no taxes were withheld. And so the cost to the district is the matching FICA that we have to pay, and that is approximately $133,000. So that will have to go into our budget. The projections had been that they would rule later in the school year and that we would have to budget for this in 2018-19, and that didn't happen. And the number of employees that we have to reimburse just in Southgate is 750 employees. It was the deductions that were withheld from July 1st of 2010 to September 3rd of 2012. So we have, this is quite an undertaking to make sure this is done properly, both for repayment to the employees and to make sure in our accounting records it's done correctly. At this point, it's projected that ORS will send the districts the file with the information this week. haven't seen anything yet. And initially, they had said that we would receive the money from the escrow fund with our January state aid payment, and now they're saying that it's not going to come with the January state aid payments, it's going to come soon after that date. And we're still getting guidance as far as how this is going to be dispersed and accounted for, and they're still making that decision. I have I sent out an initial email to all the employees right before Christmas break with not a lot of information because I don't have it, and then I sent out another email today. It was the Deputy Superintendent of Wayne County, Risa, did send the superintendents and business managers an update. It was still very tentative, but I tried to share and updated some information with the employees because they all very anxious to get the money refunded to them. So we're going to be very busy, but again, there's still a lot of unanswered questions. I know Wayne County Risa is waiting until they get the data file to determine the procedures for how we're going to proceed with this. And I'm committed to making sure that the employees get their money as soon as they can, but I need solid, concrete guidance, and I need to make sure that it's done correctly as well.
So that will flow through us, right?
Yeah, yes.
I assume there's a number that are not employees anymore that...
I'm sorry?
I assume there's a number that are not employees anymore that we're going to be...
There is. So for those, out of the 750, I didn't do an exact count, but it's well over 100 that are inactive, no longer in the district. So when the data file comes from ORS, it will include their address, which we're relying on because ORS should have their most current address. They don't always update. Once they leave, they don't update us with their address. So we have to reactivate all those employees and then pay them. It will be on one check. It will be on an off payroll week when we do this. And it will be a manual check. We're not doing direct deposit because we wouldn't have the direct deposit information for everybody. So it's going to be quite a process. So that was the first thing. On December 22nd, President Trump signed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. So it had impact on individuals, corporations, and school districts. For individuals, most employees are accustomed to, on the first pay in January, their check usually changes a little bit because the new federal withholding tables come out. Because the law was just passed on December 22nd, there are no changes in withholding at this point for the employees. That will come either towards the end of January or beginning of February. The biggest changes for employees is that they eliminated the personal exemption on tax returns and doubled the standard deduction and lowered the tax rates. So on their checks, they will probably have a bigger check because of the changes with the tax rates, but it doesn't necessarily equate to a bigger refund. It depends on their tax situation. If they have other things that are taxable, and they also have to look at the impact of, it kind of sounds like a wash when you say you take away the personal exemption and you double the standard deduction, you would think you're ahead. But if you're itemizing, depends on the level that you're itemizing at, and actually you may lose some deductions with that. So it really depends, and you have to rely, you should be consulting your tax advisors on that, but the checks themselves will probably be a little bit lower once the new tax tables come out. And as far as, and all the provisions for individuals are only effective through 2025. And the Tax Act also eliminates Obamacare starting in 2019. Individuals will not be required to have health insurance, and they won't have to pay the penalty if they don't. And the last key thing is for school districts, this new law, for any debt that's issued after December 31st of 2017, there will not be allowed to have advance refunding. So back in 2015, we did an advance refunding and basically refinanced some of our debt to lower interest rate and lower the time that it needs to pay the bonds off. And so for any new bonds, that's not going to be allowed again. And for any current bonds, we have to wait till they're callable, which is within 10 years, which is after 10 years. So there's a lot of changes.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, I had a question. It's related to the expectation of the ruling that came from the Supreme Court. Was there a plug value in the budget at all?
I'm sorry,
Was there a plug value in the budget at all?
There was not, with the amended budget that was just adopted, there was not a provision for this at that time.
Okay.
So, but we, basically what has happened is, I talked about when I did the budget presentation, there were things that I found out after I had prepared the budget workbook. Like we're getting the special ed transportation, so that will help help with those costs of that, and that will basically offset our FICA liability. Again, there wasn't any indication that the Supreme Court would rule as quickly as they did.
Yeah, you just mentioned that it'd be expected later in the year, and I wasn't sure if that would be in this fiscal budget or not.
Well, it will be in the next amended budget.
Okay. Thank you.
All set? Okay. Curriculum report?
Well, I just wanted to start by saying I am very honored to work with all of you in my new capacity. As I sent in a staff email yesterday, I know I have some pretty huge shoes to fill and a pretty big learning curve, but I'm excited and looking forward to the challenge. But as of day 2 on the job, I do not have any curriculum updates for the board at this time.
Thank you. Superintendent's report.
So I also would like to thank you for the opportunity to serve this community and, more importantly, the students of Southgate Schools. As you know, I live in Southgate, and both my daughters graduated from Southgate Anderson, and they are successfully working as a registered nurse and an actuary. I'm looking forward to learning and growing to make Southgate the very best choice for students and parents. I would be honored if each of you would be willing to meet with me one-on-one for an hour or less to begin to build a board-superintendent relationship. This would help me to understand your personal perspectives and learn about some of the topics and items that are important to you as individuals. So, I would like to send out an invitation and let you tell me when is a good time for you, and would like to do that by mid-February if that's possible with all of you.
Thank you. There's no board president update tonight. So again, citizens' comments? Still nobody? Okay. That takes us to the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of minutes of December 12th, December 19th, 2017 regular meetings, and December 19th, 2017 closed session, HR update, disbursements for December of 2017, and operational organization, A, designation of depository for district funds, destination of firms for interest-bearing instruments, and authority to transfer deposits, designation of newspaper for publication of official notices, designation of legal counsel, designation of auditor, and designation of superintendent and director of business and finance to publish notes. Would anybody like to move any of those items off of consent, or are you comfortable with them being on consent?
I make a motion to approve all of the items on the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and support. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, the consent agenda is approved. That takes us to our action item number 1. And who's presenting this for us tonight?
I am.
Okay.
So you're being asked to approve an out-of-state and overnight VE field trip to Great Lakes Regional Conference and Exhibition, which is February 1st and 2nd of 2018. So when Mrs. Barledge was here last month and her students presented their trip to New York, this is the same group and type of class that is also asking to go in February.
Is that the DECA group?
It's actually not DECA, it's VE.
Oh, okay.
So it's the Virtual Enterprises.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. I have a motion to,
I'll make a motion to approve the out-of-state overnight VE trip to Great Lakes Regional Conference and Exhibition, February 1 through 2 of 2018.
okay, I have a motion by Mr. Estheimer
Support.
and a support by Dr. Pomponio. Any discussion or questions again? No? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion is passed. Do we have any employee representatives here tonight? No? And that takes us to information and announcements.
I have an announcement.
Dr. Buckley.
As a former president, last year the board was asked to do a self-assessment study or survey on their performance and how they felt the board was in need of improvement or areas of improvement. And I'm happy to say that everyone completed that survey. So MASB did send me the results actually this evening. So I will forward all of those results to the board members either tonight or tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
I would just like to,
Oh, go ahead.
Mr. President, I would like to welcome everybody back to the second half of the school year, and all of those who have seniors. I know everybody is now realizing your children are seniors, so there's a lot going on with college application, FAFSA, and things like that. So information sharing and getting those dates, we'll keep passing those on with deadlines, even though I know the high school is really good about having the kids know everything up front and ahead of time. And just want to remind parents, as you go into doing your FAFSA, it is a free tool provided to you. If you are on a website or working with someone who charges a fee, there should be no fee to it. It is a free program, and that's the #1 question.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Last chance. Okay, that'll take us to work items. #1 is transportation RFP presented by Ms. McLaughlin.
So I included in your board packets a summary of the conversations and information that I've gathered up to this point. So the first section is the questions that, the considerations that Plant Moran requested that the board review and make some preliminary determinations of what they would like to see as far as getting estimates for potential costs. The board, we had that discussion on December 12th, so I documented the decisions of the board, and then you requested to see what other districts in Wayne County did. So I presented the questions to our Wayne County School Business Officials Group at our meeting right before Christmas. Just for comparison, for bus stops, the board had made a decision they wanted more central locations. The Wayne County School Business Officials Group, they had both where elementary stops were in neighborhoods and at centers, but the majority for the middle school and high school was that it was at centers or central locations. The distance to walk, the board had discussed 1 mile for elementary, 1.5 for middle school, and 2 miles for the high school. Overwhelmingly, the common the distance to walk was 1 mile for elementary and 1.5 miles for both middle school and high school. And then crossing a main road, the board initially discussed they didn't want students crossing a main road. Many districts that were in this discussion at my group, they allowed for secondary can cross a main road, but elementary students cannot. So that's the summary of the information that I've gathered over the last month or so. And I need to get this information to Plant Moran, so I just need to know, based on what the additional information, if there's anything you want different than what was decided at the last meeting.
We can just add that to the transportation policy and then put that together. Do they need that?
Well, I haven't seen the transportation policy.
Or if you want to give that to them and we can
Yes.
work on it. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
I can give that to them, but they would like to start on this part of the RFP. So are these areas addressed in the transportation policy?
No, it's
Okay.
minimal. It's minimal.
Okay, okay.
I have
So
one
I would
question.
like.
I have one question about the crossing a main road. Is it considered crossing a main road when you have a crossing guard there with them? Would you,
Yes.
so we're gonna say if you live right on the other side of Eureka Road, that we have a crossing guard provided
Right.
to get
I
to
believe
Ford
it
line.
does.
So even if you live on Ford line, you're the first house in, we have a crossing guard
Okay.
provided, which we're still gonna have to
Yep.
do even if we
Right.
if we transport.
Right.
Then then we're not gonna be, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So the board discussion, if I can, on the December 12th, said, crossing at Main Road, and it says no. Were you saying that specifically for K through 5 there? Is that, or was that for everyone?
It's just for
Okay.
elementary, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought we were talking elementary.
So,
Okay, and I may not have had
Yeah, I
written
thought we
that
were
down.
talking elementary.
Okay,
so it's the same as the bullet below then? Okay,
Correct.
just making sure that, okay.
okay. Do you want to keep the distance to walk at what you decided at the original meeting in December?
2 miles for high school versus below.
It's taking a half mile out of the high school. I don't know how everybody feels about that.
2 miles for high school. What's it now? I mean, what was it?
What we talked about was a mile for elementary, a mile and a half for middle school, and 2 miles for the high school. But after the work group discussion, Teresa's coming back and saying a mile for elementary is consistent, and a mile and a half for middle school is consistent. But it's also a mile and a half for high school, where we're at the 2 mile mark. So I don't know that half mile makes that much of a difference if it means we're being consistent, but,
You're gonna be busing like 50 kids if you keep it at 2 miles. I mean, there's not that much.
well, the high school, I
2
mean, for the
miles
high
away.
school, it's,
High school.
you have I mean, there's a lot of people who, they drive too, so.
Yeah, I'm just saying is that you've gotta get all the way to like Wesley, down Dix. You gotta get almost to Goddard, halfway there to Brest or something like that. I think Brest would make it
Yeah,
2
you're
miles
almost,
away.
you're at 2 miles away, you're almost saying.
Pretty almost out of
We're
the
out of the
district,
district.
so.
Well, I live in the old homestead, and from my door to the high school door is exactly 2 miles. So my son walked it for a while. With asthma in the winter,
So you'd be okay,
that
but your
would be
neighbor
rough.
would be out.
But in
Across the
spring,
street's out.
in spring and summer, I didn't think that it was too terrible.
How long is that walk?
2 miles. It depends on how the weather was. And there was not a crossing guard at Eureka there. Because see, if you're in ROTC, you have to be there by 6. So there's a little bit different. But I know that the whole old homestead would be impacted by that.
The fruit-
On a good day on the
fruit
walk
belt,
home,
too, on
Yeah.
2 miles.
Yeah.
The fruit belt.
2 miles.
an hour and a half.
It was
you
an
know,
hour and a half walk.
Well, that's kids dawdling around, but on the way there, they could get there within an hour in the winter. Usually you can walk a mile
It's a
in 15
long walk.
minutes.
That's 2 hours of walking. That's,
But-
yeah. But that's,
No PE then.
I'd say an hour, a mile and a
Yeah,
half.
I'd say cut that.
Mile and a half.
Get that down to a mile and a half.
So if we have centers, couldn't we have the parents take them to some of the center, will we have center stops?
Well, what we used to do is, we used to pick up at the church parking lot, and then they got wise on that, and they were like, don't do this anymore. But it helped everything, because the buses were already there at the middle school while the high school was letting out, because there's only 5 minutes. So that was a crazy time right there. So we would meet at those drop-off points, and then they didn't like that. So I don't know if that's something that we could talk to them again about, or at the movie theater. I don't know how they could say that the movie theater is right there.
There's a bus stop there already.
Yeah.
Yeah, for.
Not a school bus
Bus
stop.
No,
but
it's for
there's a-
Yeah.
adult commuters too, their
Yeah.
jobs
Yeah.
with the smart buses. What happens, I'm just curious, is let's say,
I mean, the middle school could almost be a pickup point if it
could,
wasn't so
actually,
full.
if it wasn't so full.
Because by the time middle school's letting out is the time that the high school kids
It couldn't
are
be a
getting,
pickup
no, it's just too
point.
Oh,
busy.
it would
It's just
add-
too busy, it's just.
Which would be counterproductive of
Yeah,
why
it's-
we're doing
yeah,
this.
it's just too busy, but, well, if you're busing, you're taking half the parents out though.
It's true.
So it's not, if you take half of the parents away and you're offering rides home, then it's,
Well, you also have to remember that Asher is right there too. So we have like the trifecta.
but that's not
All
getting
within a
out at-
quarter mile.
But they're not letting out at 3 o'clock there.
Or at least not the whole school.
No, I mean, I sit in
Depends on
front
their
of there and I
classes.
almost
The
never
class, they have a
Classes and-
huge class rush that gets out right as the middle school gets out.
Yeah.
really see, I park right there, I've never noticed.
Yeah, so
So I don't have a problem with the mile and a half because we have center points to drop.
Right.
That half
Yeah.
mile isn't going to be a big
Is
deal.
that, because that met, is that measured from the school, or is that measured from the pickup point?
That's from the school.
From the school?
That's from the school.
From the school? Okay.
Yes.
So how do we deal with, let's say, a student lives a mile and a quarter from the high school, but only a quarter mile from the pickup point?
And that's,
Walk
they,
over to the
my
pickup point
colleagues
instead
at
of
the Wayne
walking to
County
the
School
school.
Business Official advised me of those things.
Yeah?
And that's things we have to watch, where someone may actually, depending on how the bus routes are, maybe we wouldn't run into this as much with having central locations, but they might be assigned to one bus, but they think they're actually closer to a different bus stop. But that affects the count on the bus, or exactly what you said. You're just that close, and they think they can just get on the bus. And that can affect,
Administering bus passes or something like that allows them to.
Well, we can't let them on the bus. If you have a list, say you're not
Yeah.
welcome.
You're not around.
That is what they do.
That's the bus pass.
That is what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I almost think
Just haven't
if you
thought
get
through
to
it, that's all.
I almost think if you get to the pickup point, then
yeah.
we owe it to you to,
Yeah.
to let you on.
So I will tell
Even
them.
if you gotta walk a quarter mile in the other direction to
Yeah.
get to the pickup point.
Then you
Right.
get a mile and a half, or a 2
Yeah.
mile ride back or something, yeah.
Right.
With pickup points, though, we have to do a formula so that we're not overcrowding the buses, correct?
That's correct,
So
yes.
then that's an
Because the
extra
buses only
step.
have so much capacity.
Right, so then that's an additional step.
Just administer bus passes to capacity of that one bus, not one pickup point.
Maybe on the back of their student ID or whatever.
That's the only thing, only people with this bus pass can get on it.
Or that's gonna be a note. I mean, that's how they did it before.
Well, and potentially what you're looking at is a very decreased load in the afternoon as well, because everybody needs a ride to school, but then for sports or other after-school activities, half the kids aren't
Right.
there for the ride home, so.
Out there front or whatever.
Right.
Well, it's just.
It is
or-
less.
Yeah,
It is
it's just so much less because of all the other after-school activities,
Right.
but,
So I can go with a mile and a half for both middle school and high school?
yeah.
Okay. And then we'll use more central locations for everybody. Okay.
These are just the questions we're asking, right?
Yes, that's the areas that we're asking, whoever's bidding on it, asking them to address and give us a separate quote. And I have the notes that you want it split between K through 8 and high school. And I'll share that with Plant Moran as well. So then I just need a copy of the draft of the policy. If you
Okay.
email that to me.
Do you need it by the end of the week? Because I can make some revisions on it and clean
Okay,
it up a
yep,
little bit.
that's
and send
fine.
it. Okay.
That's fine. Okay, thank you.
We're all set on transportation RFP? Okay.
Plant Moran was very excited when I sent them all the information last week to just dive right in, so.
Very good, thank you. Okay, that takes us to work item number 2, board retreat, Ms. Pastor.
So on the original board calendar for the year, on the 23rd, it actually lists board retreat. So I'm trying to figure out, it looks like that we've now switched that to a regular board meeting and we're doing the board retreat on the 30th. I'm just asking for clarification.
I think we've done it both ways.
I would like to see it on a separate day
Separate
because we
meeting.
have a lot of organization things and
Right.
committees to talk about. So the 30th sounds good because it's the following Tuesday.
It just depends what you have for the regular meeting. If you don't have content for the regular meeting, then we can do that. If you,
It's
If
still
you do
could
have
run into
content.
time when we talk about different topics.
So we
Especially
already,
in the first board
we already,
retreat.
as part of the finance committee, do have for sure one other thing. So for sure, we have.
so we have something, so,
Okay.
okay, so we'll do it as a separate day as long as everybody's okay with.
30th?
Doing it on a separate day on the 30th?
Yeah, I'd like a separate day.
7?
What's the start time on that? Is it 6 o'clock?
We've typically started earlier.
So last year, you actually did it on Martin Luther King Day, on that Monday, and you started at 5, because I was actually here last year. But I don't know typically what time you start, but on the 30th, I don't believe your correspondence actually gave a time, just asked them to set aside the 30th.
No, I figure we can talk about it because normally we work with members' work schedule. So I'm good with 5 o'clock if everyone else is good.
On the 30th.
5 o'clock on the 30th, Primo's delivering, right?
Well,
He said
I could
so,
do
so on the
5:30.
record,
I could do
Tim said yes.
5:30. I wouldn't want to, I could do 5:30. I couldn't make 5, so,
5:30?
5:30?
yeah, 5:30.
Yeah.
So do we have, so one of the things I think we should put on the board retreat are definitely the superintendent goals. I'm not Leslie. I think that we should talk about those. So that would be a request of mine. I don't know if other, if we want to discuss other topics, or if you have some other ideas, or if you want to finalize that on the 23rd, but I would request that superintendent goals are on that.
I sent an email with the board president update previous, like a week ago, and it had a list of, we regularly review the committees, so if you want to put that, we're going to review the committees, and then see if we need anything extra or additional, or just, or maybe downsize what we have. The other thing we want to do this year is review board pay for the year.
Darlene, Dr. Rapone, just as a point of order, generally, Ms. Pastor, and I don't know if we're changing it this year, the board president and vice president put the agenda together. So
That's what I was going to ask.
if you want to have a date that we,
Topics, we're just throwing in
Yeah, that
topics.
we
Yeah, any
throw-
topics or items, we can talk about any
Yeah,
topics or
so-
items that we have.
items and topics would go to these guys, and then they would organize that.
You
So,
already know about, right? Yeah, these are,
Yeah.
because we have a standard list of stuff we do.
So that
And then
he
if
can
there's
take
anything
care of all that.
additional.
Jason can.
Do you have a date by when you guys would want that?
I mean, as soon as you know what you want to talk about, I mean, we can add
Do you want
it.
to have a cutoff day?
We can add it right up until when we have to post it. It's not like we're,
Board goals too, I want to
Yeah, I
add
was
board
going to
goals.
ask,
We need
board
to.
goals and
yeah.
prioritization with that would be great.
sure. Yeah, if you want to forward that to myself and to Tim, we'll, I'll work with Ms. Pastor on getting an agenda together. As long as we meet her deadline, it's just putting a line on the sheet. It's not preparing any backup, so. And then anything we don't get to, of course, we'll roll over to subsequent work sessions.
So is there a way you can, combine that list and a few days before send it out and say, in case we haven't covered everything, or,
Yeah, as we get it.
Yeah.
I can keep bouncing it back out.
yeah, that would be good.
Already sounds pretty full.
Thanks.
The first one
You
usually
want
is.
to stop already?
yeah.
The winter one
Mr.
usually
Cooper wants to
is.
stop already, so.
Put a time frame in there.
Well, we're starting at 5:30.
Okay.
It'll give us a chance to get a good chunk of stuff out of the way. And again, if there's issues that need to go on, then we just keep working on them until they're done. Maybe not that night, but any other. Okay?
The one that wasn't eaten out of.
Okay. That takes us to Q, which is adjournment. I have a motion to adjourn, please.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Oh,
Okay, motion by Mr. Green, support by
You sign that?
Dr. Pomponio.
Dr.
All those in
Pomponio.
favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Well, it's just how I
Thank
printed.
you, we are adjourned.
Okay, so this is a good start. First meeting, less than an hour.